G'day guys, Mac at the Outer Circle. Today we're talking about Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2. This game is one that I enjoy, and the reason I'm talking about it though is because a lot of people have asked me about it recently because I've been showing footage from it and made reference to it a few times in some of the videos I've done. Well, first things first. Battlefleet Gothic Armada 1 and 2, they're different beasts. I like them both for different reasons. One, the fleets are much smaller, and there's more micromanagement in them, but the better you are at that micromanaging, the more fun it is, because you can really go in depth. It's much more like the tabletop in that regard. In Armada 2, the micromanaging is nowhere near as much. You basically put a ship on orders, it stays on orders until you want to change those orders. It has certain abilities and functions, but the maneuvering, the high-speed turns, that kind of thing, aren't anywhere near as difficult as they were in 1 to execute, where you had to actually be on the ball, calculate the amount of turn you wanted, that kind of thing. 1 also had much smaller fleets. 2 is much better in that regard because you can play with much bigger fleets. The problem is, though, is that a lot of this is sort of pre-selected for you. If I go into battle here, and I pick, I don't know, let's say Space Marines. Iron Hands, because why not? Pick a skirmish mode. Select a fleet. I basically have one of these pre-made fleets to pick from, or a massive fleet, and I can create a fleet. And if I go to create a fleet, well, if it's a classic fleet, you're kind of locked in. And these are your points value, your escort values, that kind of thing. Pain in the ass. You can't just play the points you want to play, set up the skirmish the way you want, pick the AI list that you want to go up against, and pick what ships they're going to use. You know, do something absurd like having, I don't know, 6 capital vessels, for example. On top of this, you don't have anywhere near the amount of options that you would have if you were playing a typical game, for instance, of Battlefleet Gothic with regards to upgrades. They've added in their own cruisers, light cruisers, that sort of thing. This is obviously a bit of a problem because if you're a fan of the tabletop and you want to play things a specific way, well, you just can't, unfortunately. This game does make that quite difficult to do, and that makes it kind of a pain in the ass. I really don't appreciate that aspect of the game. Now, another thing you can't do is you can't mix and match fleets, which is something you can do on the tabletop. I can't go and select, say, strike cruisers and battle barges in this fleet, and then get a venerable battle barge from another faction, which is something you can do in the tabletop and really adds a lot of the flavour. Instead, this is very vanilla. You get this exact list of ships, and that is all you can pick from. Really pain in the ass. Okay, so let's go back a step. Let's say I pick a fleet. I pick one of these pre-made fleets, even though it's way less enjoyable, and I want to play a game. Okay, I launch the game. I then get to pick the faction I play against, or pick random. That's it. That's the entire extent of what I can do with them, and I can choose whether or not to give them a super heavy unit or a Titan unit. I could pick my level of difficulty, sure. But, yeah, not a great way of doing it. Unfortunately, you're not playing with a fleet you've created necessarily. You're playing with a fleet that's restricted artificially by the game against a fleet which you have no control over. I don't enjoy that aspect. There might be a way around this, mods, that kind of thing, but I don't know about. I'm just going by this vanilla version of the game that's right here in front of us. So, I'll pick a fleet. Let's pick Chaos, for instance. So, I'll launch this game. They're going to play with a similar sized fleet to what I have, and we'll talk about a bit of this gameplay here. So you get this nice little intro at the start of every battle, your fleet flagship, you get this sort of hover view over it, and it all looks very pretty. Great. It's fine in the game. Now you can choose how to deploy it. Well, you've got abilities you can pick from up here. Auger Probe's pretty good. I'll probably go the Plasma Bomb. These are basically just minor buffs that you can give to your fleet. I'll just pick ready because I don't really care if I win or lose. Alright, I just muted the game because I don't want it to feed back through my recording. Up here is my enemy fleet. Don't know what they've got yet, but what I can do is launch an auger probe straight at them and find out. And there's more ships over here. So, again, straight off the bat, unlike the tabletop, you don't know what you came up against. A couple of my ships here flew through this asteroid field and got damaged slightly, as you can see. Not a huge deal. Now, something you'll notice straight away is I do have some limited control over the actual ships themselves in this squadron view, but if I really want proper control, I need to actually zoom in and see individually or pick the same type of escort at once. Pick different carriers, that kind of thing. So I've got different torpedoes, boarding torpedoes, regular torpedoes. I've also got different Thunderhawks, strike kind, landing kind, that kind of thing. This makes macroing, or microing I should say, a little bit more difficult. I don't know exactly what the enemy's got, but I do know they're going to send in their own attack waves as I get closer. What I want to do is I want to try and hit them with my attack waves. I'm also going to set the engagement range to closer in, 4.5 kilometers, which is quite close. We want to take out their carrier because that's the most important, so I'm going to hold down shift and send all of our Thunderhawks at it at once. Now, as I say, I want to get this engagement range in pretty damn close because Space Marines are good up close, Chaos is better at range with their long lances. So they're moving in their fleet and I'm moving in mine. As you can see, my escorts have opened up a massive gap with my battleship. Now, this could be avoided. I might do something like slam on the brakes with the burn retros here. And I might go, I want to reload on my battleship. I'll go reload on my strike cruiser. My 2 light cruisers. Alright, you can surge forward. We'll go lock on. Get in there. These 2 bad boys, same sort of thing. Target that enemy escort. Swerve into this guy. I want to try and hit him with some torps if I can. So, get some boarding torpedoes out there. And we'll get some more boarding torps from the capital ship right there. Keep these ships moving. And I'm going to go after this, back after this Styx. With everyone. Now, I want to go for lightning strike, which is sort of boarding action. And as you can see, there is so much to take a hold of at once here, because unlike the tabletop, you're not picking a ship, moving a ship, and taking it in turns. This is all happening simultaneously. So I have to figure out exactly what I want to do, exactly how I want to do it, all in the same second, essentially. Get those boarding torps onto this guy. Out of boarding torps. Drop a plasma bomb as well on someone. I'll drop it back there on that escort. And I'll go for a ram with this battle barge, which is pretty damn devastating. And I'll repair as well because I do have fire on board. As you can see, there's a hell of a lot going on at once here. Possibly too much. Also, I'm going to tell these ships to now close in on the battleship, and I want them to close into point blank range. If they're close into point blank range, what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to potentially do a lot more damage. This ship is absolutely suffering right now, so I'm just going to throw it away with a ramming action, hopefully do something, but very unlikely. Close right in. This guy here, I've got to estimate where my torps are going to go, judging off the speed of the ship. Launch that way. Spread looks good. Battle barge, I need you to move up. Launch another salvo shots at it. As you can see, the amount of microing going on here is pretty intense compared to, say, the tabletop. plasma bomb. Hopefully trap that escort inside it. Battle barge is not in a good way. Try and get some lightning strikes off on this enemy battleship. That'll really help me. And enemy just launched their own boarding parties from their capital ship onto my battle barge. So, it's a struggle town. It really is struggle town. As I said, everyone, I want to get them to point blank range, really do the most damage. This poor little guy here, slam on your brakes, mate. Let the gap build up. Risky shot. Risky shot. Didn't quite pull it off. Battle barge, he's really hurting, but I can repair now. Try and get back a bit of health on the ship. Get some Thunderhawk Annihilators over onto this guy. Same from over here. Same thing again. Actually, I might go the regular Thunderhawks, because that Grand Cruiser is that's going to be problems for me. That's really going to be problems for me. It is a full health Grand Cruiser, and this battleship has no shields up currently, and it's just getting pummeled. But if I can get myself into an advantageous position, this will be good for me. A battleship's just about gone from the game, so I'm going to send him off that way. Rather than a lightning strike, I'll perform a more traditional boarding action and an Honor the Chapter boarding action. Would be better from the barge, but barge is in its own problems at the moment. So we'll get the barge spun around. As you can see, handles like a pig. Get some Thunderhawk bombers in. And we've got this bad boy over here chasing after this lone apostate escort. Bang! Just like that. Fuck yeah. Hit him with a Thunderhawk strike. And get a boarding action on him. He'll be laughing. Same here. Get those Thunderhawks in. This guy's got currently a bit of damage going on. Battle barge though, absolutely caning it. On to the chapter. Multiple boarding actions. Pretty much a worst case scenario for that Grand Cruiser now. Spin the battle barge around a bit. I can't hit him with the torps because it's too close range. On the chapter. And go battle barge. And that's it. We've won the match. Now, it's only against a medium AI. But that was with a small fleet. Now imagine what happens when you play with a massive fleet. The problems become pretty endemic. Now, what's even crazier is if you go to something like a massive fleet. So, for example, I have Chaos. Obviously, I've got my little Zench force. I'm going to pick my 4th Fellowship fleet. I'm going to pick the hardest AI. And who am I going to take on? I think I'll take on the Adeptus Mechanicus, something different. Now, what this gameplay is going to demonstrate is cheesing it. Totally cheesing it. Because I built this fleet from scratch to cheese it for demonstrative purposes. So, what's going to go on here is I've got a Planet Killer, I've got 2 Glorianas, and the rest of the fleet is Despoiler battleships. The enemy fleet, on the other hand, they're going to have something like the Phalanx, or a Gloriana of their own. They might not even have that because I didn't choose it. 1 second, I will fix that. Alright, back at that loading screen. I've got my fleet. I want to play the Mechanicum very hard and allow Titans because I want them to have their biggest, most powerful units so that when I cheese them, it's even nastier. So I deliberately capitulated that last battle and lost points. Such is life, right? So, I'm like, okay, I want to play a game of Battlefleet Gothic, but, you know, I'm a douchebag, and the developers haven't counted on a douchebag. As an example, I'm not really a douchebag. How do I cheese it? Well, okay, I take Chaos, I take a Planet Killer. I could take the Blackstone Fortresses as well, but this is just way more effective. So, Planet Killer, you can come down here. I'll call you Group 1. Gloriana, you can be Group 2. Gloriana, Group 3. And then these 5 battleships can be Group 4. And I'll corner camp them as well. Get a nice layout. I mean, they're lovely looking ships. They're all Tzeentch themed ships, but you'll notice on the big capital ships like the Planet Killer and the Glorianas, nothing's actually gone Tzeentch on them. It's just the lighting has changed to that purplish colour. Okay, that sucks. What abilities do I want? Auger Probe and Auger Disruptor. And I'll take Demonic Sight and better macros for my soft buffs. Whole army, burn retros, reload order. So, what am I going to do? Well, first things first. Looks like they do have a Gloriana, and it's just the one. So, I will launch an Auger Probe. I'll then target the Gloriana, and I can see the overlapping fields of fire from all my capital ships. So I'll launch a torpedo spread. The enemy has launched fighters, so I'll launch all 7 squadrons available to me. The thing is though, because these are all super carriers, there's like 4 squadrons in each one, 6 on the Glorianas. So I've actually launched more like, instead of 7, more like 40. So 40 squadrons of fighters, and they're just going to sit on picket duty. What are they doing on picket duty? Well, any fighters, bombers, or torpedoes launched from the enemy are going to fly straight into all these swarms of fighters, and I've got so many of them, basically nothing's going to get through. Watch this. That's an enemy fighter squadron. And it's dead. There's 2 fighter squadrons, in fact. Oh, here comes some more. More fighter squadrons and some melter torps. Dead, 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 dead. Seems perfectly balanced. Let's fire another torpedo spread. Now I'll select the Planet Killer. I'm going to aim it straight at this Gloriana, because it's just about ready to fire. Because, you know, fair and balanced. Let's see what happens. Oh, a couple torpedoes. Yeah, they're going to hit it. What's my field of fire? Oh, a little bit more this way, please. Now I'm just camping, sitting in the corner. Gloriana's used its burn retros order to get it to there. Unfortunately now, there's no real way he can turn out of this because the big ship is too slow and bulky. So I guess I'm just gonna, instant kill it, as well as anything else that was in the beam, but luckily for them, nobody else was, this time. And it's just in time to launch another torpedo spread. Look at all these torps I'm just sending out in waves. It's costing me absolutely nothing, and I'm just able to sit back here in the corner. He's moving forward now because for some reason he goes from burn retros to move forward after completing a kill. Don't know why, just some sort of glitchy programming in the Matrix. So, you can see the torpedoes, they're not really doing much, it's more harassing than anything. The enemy fleet though, they're starting to get a bit broken up by it. I'm going to hit them with an Auger Disruptor, so now the entire fleet has been hit with this thing which makes my ships invisible to them. Pretty funny. And that's only because I've used special orders and such that they could see me. And, yeah, torpedoes still harassing, not really achieving much. I'm just waiting for the Planet Killer to get another shot off shortly. And what's this? My bombers have come off cooldown because my fighters are done. So let's go squad there, squad there, squad there, there, and there. Planet Killer, aim over here please. I want you to remove all that from existence. Now a human player can go, okay, I can get a few ships out of the way here. They are using their forehead full at the moment, but you're about to see bang, bang, bang. That's what, 2 cruisers and a battleship, I think. Dictator destroyed. A Dictator destroyed. And enemy Arc Mechanic is destroyed. I did 0 then. 0 effort, complete nothingness. So now they're dropping radiation bombs on me, but I don't really care. I'm at the point now where I can fire the last of my torpedo spreads because they aren't infinite. It doesn't matter if you have reload orders or anything, you can only launch so many in a match. These ships were all on full health, and that's the damage that one strike did on each of these vessels. Seems fair. Oh, let's see, that's a battleship. They're pretty nasty, I'll give you a few. Cruiser, nothing major. We'll do one over there as well for good luck. So spread the love, right? The whole fleet is, of course, moving forwards at the moment. Unfortunately, the planet killers slow down a bit by being inside those radiation clouds, but they're probably not going to kill it. All they're doing is just annoying it, ironically. Let's see. Target you and you now with aircraft strikes, and because I've got so many of them, and I'm on orders for reloading ordnance, it works pretty damn fast for me. I don't need to cycle to another order. This reload skill is perfectly good for me. Now let's see. I will aim over here and fire my planet killer shot because I'm fair like that. Nothing is going to want to go into that area, and they're going to try and avoid it like the plague, because anything that does go into it when I fire instantly is killed. Fair and balanced gameplay, comrade. Almost a game built by Wargaming. Send enough bombers to cripple a couple of these ships. And as you can see, it's dissolving into a clusterfuck pretty damn quickly. All I'm really doing, there's no real skill going on here. I'm just moving my fleet forward. Oh yeah, a little bit of damage on the planet killer. Doesn't really matter. Sending out the occasional strike as they're reloaded. The radiation, it hurts. It hurts, not gonna lie. It's doing damage to my fleet, but I'm using no real strategy or tactics here apart from the corner camp, and I'm just telling my ships to fly forward. I could have flown up one flank, concentrated all my fire to the side, put my battleships to the outward flank, and acted as shields to my Glorianas and Planet Killer. Nah, doesn't really matter at the end of the day. They're going to kill all this stuff. They may even be able to outright kill those cruisers there just with the aircraft strikes. We're about to find out, because the enemy fleet is all but crippled at this point. They've managed to get my planet killer down to half health by me basically sitting it inside radiation clouds constantly. Let's see what these aircraft strikes do. Yep, that seems fair. Fair and balanced gameplay. Bang, bang. All that cost me was a consumable, essentially, that I eternally can reload. Not really an issue, is it? Send some more strikes out. Pull off a dangerous maneuver here. Burn the retros on these ships. Get you out of there. Put your engagement range to 4.5 and tell you to chase him. Same with you. 4.5 to chase him. All of a sudden this game has become very manageable because I've done nothing. I've essentially just let the enemy come straight at me in a line and I've corner camped. It's completely not in the spirit of the game. Just lazy Gloriana here. Absolutely crushing the enemy fleet. Ooh, yeah, I'll go for the planet kill. Probably won't kill it in time. Or fire in time. There you go. You can get the slow motion finish. So, yeah, a bit of a charge up time on it. Humans are better at avoiding it than the AI, but still, it's not perfect. So, for that game, I'm going to get awarded a bunch of points for the win. 100 points right there. Seems very fair and completely balanced, right? So, there's a lot of problems here. The game really should be turn-based in how you move your ships and how the enemy reacts to them. Instead, it's this clusterfuck of a whole bunch of different classes and different abilities, and you could see how quickly I was trying to cycle through them and use things constantly. I wasn't using hotkeys, I was using the mouse. I'm not trying to be pro gamer MLG 360 no scope right now. Just demonstrating some of the gameplay. The other thing is of course, they've got all these factions, but they haven't sort of equally outfitted them. Like, okay, the Tyranids, they have a Titan, they have the Ancient One. The Necrons don't have a Titan. The Orcs, they've got these giant Space Hulks. Dark Eldar, they don't have a Titan. Eldar, they don't have a Titan. Chaos has the Planet Killer and the Blackstone Fortresses and their Gorianas. And all three Imperial factions have Goriana and the Phalanx. And the Phalanx shouldn't be in the game. And it's way smaller than it should be either. But the Phalanx is another one of these massive, super heavy things, and yet you can kill it in a single shot. It's a joke. So overall, what do I think of it? It's flashy gameplay, it's enjoyable gameplay, it's completely unbalanced. And especially when you can do what I just did then, which was sit back with that Chaos Fleet in the corner with a ship that can one-shot any other ship in the game, and I'm the only faction that has it, that's a huge problem. Now, I can fire that Planet Killer gun infinitely. Good luck killing all those battleships, super tanky battleships and Glorianas before that Planet Killer makes a meal of some of your best ships. Even just using it to lay a line of fire across the map that forces the enemy to turn all their ships in their fleet away from that direction is a huge deal, because it buys me time to launch more of those infinite strike aircraft at them. Now, I'm not saying it's unbeatable, but it's far from balanced. It's a meme fleet. Now, this is a problem that's really haunted these Battlefleet Gothic games ever since Battlefleet Gothic Armada 1, and it's why the multiplayer is dead. It's always dead with these games. Because, look at Battlefleet Gothic Armada 1. I played Chaos. You had to spend ages ranking up your ships, playing match after match after match, something you don't have to do in this one. And you would rank your ships up by winning games. If you lost them, your ships got destroyed, and it cost you the experience you earned to repair them so you could fucking play them in your next game. And if the ship, if you didn't let it repair, it took turns to repair, and that meant that you had to play multiple matches, like 3 matches in a row without your best ship before you got it back. You finally got your ship back, and then it dies again the next game because of the terrible balance. So the ship you really want to use, you want to play with, you might only get it in, 2 in 6 games or something. Or worse. And that was a real pain in the ass. And then you're like, hey, I play Thousand Suns or I play Khorne or whatever. I want to go towards that faction and mark the ships. Well, it cost you more points than you'd earn in about 10 matches to upgrade anything above a cruiser to a specific patron god. It was really expensive points. And part of the problem was 2 of the fleets, Nurgle and Khorne, were really good. And Tzeentch and Slaanesh were a bit more mediocre. Khorne, especially for the boarding values, was intense. So you wanted to upgrade to the Chaos Gods, and you were sort of pushed in that direction. Now, in this version of the game, it's just a skin. Yeah, you play as Khorne, you play as the World Eaters, but your fleet doesn't really get a bonus for being World Eaters. And so I'd play these games, and you wanted really good boarding values because the Eldar were just super fucking OP. They just had these pulsars where they could fire from invisible outside your range and hit your ships and instantly just ignore your shields and do a ton of damage. And it was broken as fuck, and it took them 6 to 8 months to fix it. What do you think that did to the multiplayer community when there was only 4 factions to pick from, so that at least a quarter of your matches were against the Eldar? Yeah, not enjoyable. And when they did finally fix it, the Eldar became such glass cannons that just wasn't fun. And unlike playing the tabletop game where you have the sunward side, so the Eldar have different speeds based on where the sun is, you had none of that in this game here. Your Eldar, they move like any other fleet, they just have a bit of extra maneuverability if they use an ability. So, yeah, it's got a lot of problems. It's fun, yes, it's very arcadey, but it's not how this game should be done. It should be more like the Blood Bowl game. Give you the option of real time, but have an actual turn-based mode for most of its gameplay. And then, of course, you got the missions. These are skirmishes, but there are missions like defending transports. Again, 1 was the worst offender for this, but there was missions called data recovery, for instance, and you don't know what mission you're going to get before you play it. Data recovery was basically warp your ship out before the enemy can get to you, get the data off you, and warp out. Now, the problem with this was some factions, like the Orcs, were too slow to reach you before you warped out. Or you had a faction that had a shitload of ships, which meant they could launch not hundreds, but many boarding actions. And every time if you got targeted by a boarding action, they took the data and it got transferred to the ship that launched the action. So it rewarded you for having lots of pathetic ships that wouldn't win a straight up fight. So you go into a game, go, fuck, I'm going to bring a strong fleet. I'm expecting to face enemy battleships and cruisers and stuff like that. You load the game in. All of a sudden, your strong fleet, you only have 3 boarding actions available to you. The enemy comes in with 6 ships. They launch a boarding action, you counter launch. You do that 3 times. They've still got 3 boarding actions left. You've got none left. And your only option is to try and kill the enemy ship in the 30 seconds you've got before it disappears from the match. Incredibly unbalanced. Another one was a game mode where you had to bombard a planet, and you had to move to these different rings that would just randomly appear for the bombardment. Problem was, they were so far away, you basically couldn't ever make them. Maybe the Eldar could make them, or if you got lucky and they pop up right next to your ships, but half the time they'd be clean across the other side of the map. And you saw just then how slowly these ships move without using your all-head full. So you try and launch your fleet off in that direction, you're being harassed by the entire enemy fleet the whole time, they're just focus firing you while you're trying to just use your speed to get there. And you of course miss the targets, and it goes, oh, you failed the mission, you failed to bombard the planet. It's like, hey, I'm sitting right above the fucking planet right now. But clearly I can bombard it. And the enemy fleet is just getting experience because they're knocking out your ships, and you can't turn around to fight them because you're trying to reach these objective points that have been arbitrarily laid out for you. Massive game-breaking problems. So, my overall analysis of this game is, if you want to have these pretty visuals and see what the game might play like, sure, go for it. You're not going to be playing with a fleet that you've picked against an enemy fleet that you've picked. You can pick your own fleet, build your own fleet, but you're really limited to what points values are going to be, what you can do with the fleet. The vanilla version of the game basically is mediocre. The visuals are great, but there is a lot of downsides to it. So be aware of those downsides if you're looking to buy this game. Anyway, Mac with the Outer Circle, thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.